Hey everybody, welcome back to another 10-minute Marvel video. I'm Petter, and today we are talking Wonder Man. I have just finished the whole of the series of Wonder Man, and we're going to do the normal thing. Non-spoiler, spoiler, we can tack on where could it go from here at the end, but let's get into this. And thank you for everybody who's stuck around. I know that we haven't been getting videos out as consistently as I'd like, but we'll see how much that can change. Gonna try and do a little bit more in this upcoming year again. Maybe not the speed I was doing them at though. But let's start out with these non-spoiler thoughts. Wonder Man for me is a really fun show. It's a great kind of character piece for both Simon Williams, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen, and for Trevor Slattery, played by Ben Kingsley. Just two really standout performances for a show that doesn't fit in the normal superhero vein. Now, do we get to see powers? Sure. MCU things referenced? Absolutely. But it's not a show that's all about the powers. And in fact, that plays around with the idea of powers and how they might not be welcome. And I think in a really interesting and unique way. And that's what makes it stand out to me as a show. It's Marvel again trying something pretty unique and different and really succeeding at it. I think that's where Marvel has done some phenomenal shows. Agatha All Along, WandaVision, even Loki, while it still has superhero elements to it, the time manipulation TVA piece makes it feel more unique. Now, one of my favorite shows is Miss Marvel, and that one does follow a little bit more of the standard superhero formula that maybe we saw in a show like Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Hawkeye. And so it's not that it's a bad thing, but I love it when Marvel really says we have a plan for a show, clearly do here, and we're going to turn out something that fits that vision. We're not going to worry about it being too superhero-y or anything like that. Instead, it's how can we create a great show that has superheroes in it, but first and foremost, it has to be a great show. And for me, Wonder Man definitely hits that. I was seeing that they were considering scrapping it during the writer's strike. Um, pass it off as a write-off. I wonder if they considered that and Ironheart both for that option. I'm glad that they didn't. So let's move into spoilers. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. You have been warned. Spoilers. So honestly, I don't know that this section is going to be very long. I'm going to talk about what stood out to me about this, but again, it's still Simon Williams and Trevor Slattery's relationship, and just how Trevor Trevor goes through this arc of guilt as he's teamed up with the DODC to try and prove that Simon Williams has powers, that Simon Williams is dangerous and a threat to the world. Now, that's very much true. In the comics, Simon Williams, well, I forget who he kills. He kills a West Coast Avenger. Um, and he is a risk. In fact, he becomes a pacifist because he doesn't think that he can necessarily rein in his powers the way he should, and so he just doesn't want to use them. Here, they kind of play around with that idea and make it so that powers are no go on movie sets. This stems from Doorman and Josh Gad in honestly, Josh Gad's role in this film, I'm not going to even, or film, movie, wow, TV show, I'm not even going to call it a cameo. He has a full role in this, is phenomenal. Even if it's just in that doorman episode, his character poking fun at himself is a nice thing. The house remix of In Summer from Frozen, phenomenal. And it's the perfect character to kind of play with Doorman and just the absurdity of that character as well. So that removal of powers and the reason for it, I thought was really cool and well done. It wasn't just kind of a throwaway thing. It wasn't what it didn't lean into what could have, which could have been this idea of like anti-mutants or anti-powers. It wasn't that. It was this is going to be too expensive to ensure if you have superpowers. Really cool idea there that, yeah, I like a lot because it takes something that could have gone one way and goes a different way with it. Then, I mean, let's talk about Yahya Abdul Mateen the third's performance in this as Simon Williams. It is really well done. And the arc and growth, the minimal growth that Simon Williams has in this show works really well. He is that character who doesn't have confidence in Hollywood. He has, but still wants to make it. And I really like kind of the complexity of that. He doesn't have confidence in himself in the realm of Hollywood, but knows because I mean, dad told him, yeah, this is going to be, this is going to be what you are. And then his father passes away and he takes that to heart. It's just a really well done character. And I was worried about it going into it that it might feel a little bit too much Hollywood ish. I think we saw that when Marvel took a big swing with She Hulk. It was kind of a swing and a miss that it tried to do too much superhero, but it also tried to be like winks and nods to the industry. This one, it's not winks and nods to the industry. It's just a superhero comedy, heartfelt buddy show about the Hollywood machine and the Hollywood industry and what that's like in a superhero world. Now, let's talk about the DODC here. I think it was nice to bring them back. It was nice to give them something more to do. And as compared to, say, Miss Marvel, where they kind of seemed a little bit out of place because she wasn't using her powers for destructive purposes. It just seemed like they were there to try and get her. Here, yeah, Simon is a concern, a threat, and a potentially really big asset for them. Plus, they talk about how they need some wins. Basically, they have this superhero prison that isn't getting filled up with superheroes. Now it has a giant hole in the roof, too, so that's going to be an issue. But I think that it just tells and gives them something more and something better to do. They should keep showing up in shows. I think they're interesting characters, an interesting organization to have show up. And then trying to think what else to talk about here. So much of it really is that character experience. We've talked about the two kind of stars, Simon Williams and Trevor Slattery, and Yeah, that's what shines about it. So let's look forward. Could there be a season 2 of this? Yes. Where could season 2 go? That to me is a pretty big question because season 1 wraps up with Simon breaking Trevor Slattery out of the DODC prison after Trevor has taken the fall for him blowing up the set of Wonder Man. Well, that's interesting. Now the DODC is going to again suspect that it was Simon who did it. And if it was Simon who did it, they're going to be after him. How is he going to live and work as a Hollywood actor anymore? Trevor, of course, is going to have to be on the run. So these two main characters, what sort of story or dynamic is that going to be? And I think it could be interesting to have a series where they're on the run, a series maybe where Simon's powers do go out of control a little bit, and he continues down that route to become a pacifist, because then it's this challenge for him that I think is pretty interesting of, I have these incredible powers, but I am scared to use them. And I think you could also, you have his brother in there. His brother is the Grim Reaper in the comics. I think you could move kind of down that route as well, where his brother starts to resent him because now maybe with his insurance company that or where he's working, they don't want him there anymore because they don't want to be associated with Simon, who released a terrorist, who blew up a movie set, who, yeah, if all of that comes out, who was the Mandarin, and they don't work with him anymore, and it could push him down kind of that other path, which I think could be really interesting, to not only have the DODC hunting them, but to maybe even have the Grim Reaper hunting them as well. And that would potentially get you through another 8 episodes where it ends, and this is kind of just spitballing, but it ends with the Grim Reaper being captured. If the powers are at all similar between the two of them, then I think you could be like, DODC kind of off their backs right now. Maybe Trevor gets a pardon because he helps bring in this bad guy, though that be up in the air. And then if you wanted to, you could kind of go back to the formula of this season, but now Wonder Man as a star, Wonder Man trying not to use his powers, but there's always that question of, can he keep it in check? Or maybe it's just a 2-season thing. You end with the Grim Reaper being arrested, and now Wonder Man is recruited into maybe an ensemble show of West Coast Adventures or something like that. I think that could work well as well. But I'm going to throw a poll up on the community tab or post tab, I forget what they call it currently, for what you think of Wonder Man. So drop a vote there. And I thank everybody for checking out this video. If you enjoy this content, subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, and we're going to be talking about Wonder Man in more detail on this week's upcoming 10-Minute Marvel podcast. You can find the podcast here on YouTube. Click onto the channel and then click the podcast tab, or wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcast from. But with that, we'll see you next time.